Gloria in excelsis Deo.
Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this is going to be another recap of the Song of Ice and Fire campaign that I'm in, and I believe that it's going to start to run down here shortly, so I don't know how many more of these recaps I'm going to do before the campaign ends. But just as sort of a recap of what's been going on, Prod is now the leader of the Iron Claws. My character is awaiting his Iron Claws for becoming, a part of that organization. The Mormonts are at House Rain, which is one of our rival houses. It's a minor house. Belthier and Sir Blackstone are both dead. Almer is, the brother of various characters, is in his room with shattered legs as a result of Brander's brutal beatdown of him. Lord Glover is at Bearhold, and he's sort of courting Alina. And most of the Iron Claws have now gone away on a mission, and they're gone. They were sent away by Marcus. They started off with my character having a dream or a vision. He was running in snow. Omsler the wildling was with him. Omsler stopped, and he wanted to avoid the wall. They spent about 2 days traveling around to the edge to try to get a boat to go down to the water. They threw out the name Edgar Roderick, and other names are starting to float through my character's mind. These memories of these people, places that he didn't think were places where he had been, but they were becoming his memories. And basically, the idea was that by putting on this face of Brander Snow, he had started to absorb these memories, absorb who he was. They got a boat from an old man, and they had his young son help them carry the boat. They were given some food, and the boy of the old man had a lot of questions, not really believing that they were going to return, even though he had name dropped Brander Snow, Lord Edgar. Um, he didn't trust them, and there was lots of questions there. And this is kind of neat because Zig lets me in flashbacks role play and sort of flesh out the background more, and it's something that works very well. I recommend trying to do that in your own campaigns. So eventually they were let free. My character and Omsler, they landed on the northern shore of Bear Island, where where Lord Redtree, who goes by Frostfoot is his nickname, that's where his lands are, and they always are very vigilant against wildlings. So we had the idea that even though I was, supposed to be Brander Snow, they would probably question us. They might kill Omsler, and he was the reason my character was still alive. So we didn't want to let that happen. So we just fled on foot in a random direction to try to get inland, find Bearhold, and get back to where we supposedly belonged. Okay. And Omsler was turning over the coin that my character had given him. That was the coin of the faceless men, basically. Coin of death, I guess you could call it. We went back to Marcus. He was seeing people coming into the village that is below our Bearhold, our keep. Alma, she is our steward, was very happy to report that the visitors were bringing money and wealth. The various merchants and businesses were doing well because of it. A lot of people were coming in for the tournament, this thing that Marcus had set up during, you know, his whole wedding, and basically it's going to be a bunch of funerals and weddings. There's been a lot of people dying off, so they're starting to stack up. Actually, all these funerals for all these people, his father, Belthier, all these people are starting to pile up. So it's going to be interesting to see if we actually get to have the funerals because we didn't have them in this session. um, the Glovers were deciding to split the cost of the wedding. Marcus is going to be wedded to Alyssa Woodtower to acquire those lands, and Alina is probably going to be marrying Lord Glover, and so they were agreeing to split the costs, and the wedding was going to be at Bearhold. So the weddings are going to be in another session as well. Let's see, the funeral was going to happen first, And then House Redtree, the Lord, Lord Frostfoot was supposed to arrive. Marcus decided that before all these people show up, before all these prying eyes are going to come into his personal life, he wanted to get in some last minute training in the bear pit, and that's something that he likes to do to relax. And he has this punch that he's trying to, perfect of breaking the nose bone and showing up into the brain. All right, let me go back to Alina. Um, she heard Marianne, who was vomiting into a bucket. She was crying about Almer and his legs, and she was running toward Almer's room. And again, Almer's legs were destroyed because of actions my character took. Nathan was reading a book in his room, more crying for Marianne, and these are brothers and sisters. Alina dressed quickly and then went to Almer's room. Nathan followed. Marianne was doing more crying about his legs and just worried about him. Nathan said that 2 guards watching Almer was a waste of manpower, and he has a lot of tactical know-how, and he's very good about figuring things out, because he said that most of the men had gone off and all of these strangers are coming into our lands. It's a very precarious situation, and I don't Nathan didn't think that Marcus understood that, or that Alina understood that, so he was putting that point forward. He also said that there's probably a lot of Wood Tower men that are very angry about what has happened to their homeland, that are now wandering into the Roderick's lands. So there's probably going to be some mayhem as a result of that. And again, it's something that Alina and Marcus really didn't think about. Nathan had disposed of his guards and told them to go elsewhere where they were needed, and Alina didn't like that at all. Alina's very protective. She's kind of motherly towards her brother and sisters. And then she took them into her room, Alina, and Nathan wasn't very happy about that either. Brander had a narrow line of sight, and he could see a bed. He just sort of came out of that vision he was having about his past. He saw, something metallic in his hand. Sunrise was coming in through the room, and he heard the guards talking, saying, "Rest peacefully, my lord." He got out of where he was, and he realized that he was in Almer's room, hiding in his closet with a wire, to strangle people with in his hands. He didn't remember getting there. He wasn't really sure why he was there. And he sort of just walked over and looked down, got real close to Almer's face, but Almer was, still sleeping. And there was something going on at the door that he just didn't hear. He didn't quite pick up on what was happening there. He thought people were coming into the room. So, I jumped out the window, climbed down, and some people saw me, climbing out of this window in broad daylight, and then climbing up the other wall back up into my room. So that was a little awkward, but nothing too bad came of that so far. Back to Marcus. Alessa Woodtower was nervous, and she thought that she saw the man that kidnapped her in the crowd. And this is way back from the first episode, the first session. His name was Bohoon, who has, he kidnaps people and ransoms them, and, they think that they found him, or maybe his brother. And he's in town, so he's kind of a nefarious fellow, so they're not really sure what's going on there. So after they had some fun, they went down to breakfast. Alina woke up, and Nathan and her shadow cat were gone. She had told her shadow cat, Aegon, to watch over him, so apparently the shadow cat had followed when Nathan left. Alina and Marianne went to breakfast. Her 2 guards pointed to the shadow cat pawing at Almer's room, so she reprimanded Nathan for she reprimanded the cat for not following Nathan. And Nathan was basically saying, I'm still alive, you're worrying over nothing, no one's going to harm me. It's basically like a very motherly presence versus a rebellious, smart kid, is basically what the scene was like. Back to Brander. He was messing with his face. He was looking in a mirror, like, moving the muscles, these sorts of things. And he lifted up his eye. Look, got real close, and he sort of moved it to the side, and behind it there was another eye, basically saying that this thing that everyone saw was superficial, and the actual real face was underneath. And that was a sort of moment when I realized that it wasn't just visions. Like my character was actually the face changer, the face dancer, I think is what it's called. Can't think right now. Faceless man. I can't talk. And it wasn't actually Brander. So, it's sort of that. I have been going with he's Brander, but he's having all these strange visions. Is he crazy? I don't know. But yeah, now I'm very sure as a player that he is actually the face dancer. So, that kind of made me think, all right, then later on, probably in this session or another session, I'm going to try something. And that actually happened later, so I'll get to that. I went down to breakfast, dressed to the nines in my armor and so forth, and I picked up Marianne and started tickling her to try to make her feel better. She was crying and sobbing, but she didn't want anything to do with that, probably because Brander was the one that smashed Almer's legs. Alessa Woodtower wanted to talk to Alina about dresses and getting things ready for the wedding. Marcus asked Brander to enter the fights, enter in the lists. And there was a sort of weird moment where my character said that, you know, I will do it, but only if you demand it of me. And Marcos was sort of taken back by that, because Brander is, very violent and, probably would be intimidating on the battlefield. And Marcus didn't push it. He just said, "All right, and then he just sort of threw that away. He wasn't going to make him do anything he didn't want it against his will." So, um, so after that, a grizzled old man showed up, and this turned out to be Lord Frostfoot from the Red Tree. This is north of the island, one of the minor houses there. He had a crutch, and he was missing one of his feet. He had a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and they were all dressed in whites and reds, and they were pretty smelly. Not very clean cut. They seem like they're more of the outdoorsy types. Not very. There wasn't very much of a noble air about them. Marcus greeted them warmly, and the kids, Krim, Crow, and Little Crow. And the reason the last two are named Crow is because they are destined for the wall. So he almost like wanted to get their names, get them ready from an early age that that's what their fate is going to be. He left 2 of his children at home, and he said his oldest was coming soon to enter into the fight, into the combats. And his name was Todrick. Boys came in to sit with Nathan and Marianne, although they didn't seem to understand what Savas was. That's the game of choice for Nathan. It's very, very much like chess, but in the Game of Thrones setting. There was a recruiter making his way around the island looking for people to join the wall. And he had told Lord Redtree a bunch of tales, said that the wildlings were getting nasty and starting to band together. Lord Redtree talked about his wife, about Marcus's wife and how she's pretty and he picked a good one. Hopefully they'll be blessed with lots of children. Brander was sitting with the kids at the kids' table, which was kind of appropriate since a lot of the actions he's been taking lately have been, very outlandish and just out there. There's a lot of talk about the decisions that were made about the late Lord Roderick and the current one. That actions have consequences, but there might be some in the future for House Roderick. Marcus told the servant to get the bear pits, or bear pelts to Lord Redtree's wife, Isa up north, just to sort of smooth the waters there. Alina went to Omsler and told him to keep away from the red trees because the red trees do not like wildlings at all. And she also told him to keep an eye out for suspicious people that are entering into the Roderick lands. Let's see here. Alina was nervous about all of the strangers and how few Roderick guards that there were, as mentioned by Nathan, and that most of them are now fixing up the places at Woodtower. Because Marcus wants Woodtower, those lands, to look better than they are now whenever he takes Alyssa home to see her lands again. Then Alina went to Marcus's room, and she wanted more guards, and Marcus agreed that you know her fiance Lord Glover should bring more guards with him, more soldiers. And then Marcus by himself went to go get Marianne. She wasn't looking forward to going to the funerals of her brother and her father. Lord Edgum Roderick had died as well. And Marcus took Marianne to Kirk Redtree and had him tell her stories. And as players, we all had smirks on our faces. We knew exactly what Eunice was doing. He's trying to butter them up, get them used to one another, because he wants Marianne to go to the north. He wants them to perhaps marry her in the future. And if things go badly, then at least there's a Roderick that's outside of the house that can continue on the family line. Marcus talked about Krim, about swords and bears and how to fight, and there was this nice little bonding part of the session where those two were doing a lot of manly type stuff, and this is how you hit, this is how you swing, and I really liked how Eunice did that. It kind of had that father son vibe, veteran slash rookie vibe, that sort of thing. So that was kind of neat. Back where my character was, he went to the maester to talk to him, and this idea pops up into his head that even though this maester was the only person that was kind to Brander, I'm not Brander. That's a different person. I'm this person that was sent to kill Brander. So I sort of took that away, and I was trying to think methodically that I'm a pretty learned person, and it would be very easy to pretend to have the knowledge of a maester. I would be able to move about. I would have more power. I would have more ability. I don't have as much baggage as I did with Brander, who has sort of been painted into a corner with all of his horrible actions. I mean, maybe even my character is making a mental note. Okay, now that I know who I am, I need to play it cool. I need to bring it down a few notches. I need to be more in the shadows than in the sunlight. So I went into the rest area, the bathroom, or look in the basin, and I ended up just grabbing the maester by the neck and killing him and cutting off his face. So at this point, the rest of the players are very much like, "What the hell are you? You just killed the maester? He's like the father figure." And with this group, I've only played with them twice, but in these two games, my characters tend to kill off a lot of characters. So they're sort of laughing and chuckling, and I think Zig was like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" Because he didn't foresee this at all. So I ended up ripping my own face off and seeing this like white skull looking stuff behind with all this black goop on it. And I smeared off some of that black goo, and I smeared on the inside of the face of the maester, and I put the maester's face on my own and just sort of smoothed the edges around. And as that happened, I took on the guise of the maester. I become stooped and bent over, things like that. I looked exactly like him. And on the ground was the body of uh, the real maester. And I wrapped him up and threw him underneath the bed to sort of deal with later. So that was a moment that kind of like everyone was like, that was like the what the fuck moment in this session was, what the hell is Tim doing? He just cut off his character's face, and it actually worked out. Because part of me was thinking, if he's not actually a face dancer or a faceless man, this isn't going to work. He's going to horribly ruin his face. But it all worked out good. It was interesting. And now my character is masquerading as Master Tassild, and he has very good reputation with everyone. He's well respected. It's an interesting change of character, even though I'm the same character, so it was kind of neat. So that happened to Brander. Then there was all these flashbacks too. Whenever I put that face on of Maester training and putting links around the chains that I have, being in a massive room and having all these other Maesters around me. And there was a sort of moment where Zig was saying he's going to have to feed me some different images and different memories now that that was going on. But I also did something interesting. The face of Brander that I had, I moistened, put in water on it, and then rolled it up and put it in my pocket, thinking perhaps that it might be good to be Brander Snow at some point when my back is against the wall. So there is the possibility still there of becoming Brander again. All right. So then Alina was marching down the hallway, and I had met with her, pretending to be the Maester, and that was a different vibe too, because our characters would have a different relationship, Maester to a noble instead of a bastard child to a noble heir. So that was kind of fun to do, and I sort of role played that out a little bit. We went to Nathan's room, and there I found that coin, and also a book that he had borrowed, Nathan had borrowed from the real Maester. And I flipped it open, and there was a part that had that coin. It talked a lot about, whoever owns this coin has the power of life and death, basically from a faceless man. And, I asked him to return that book because the Maester had told my character that, he had borrowed this book weeks ago, a book about Essos. And I was also thinking that, I still don't know my own name. My character, this faceless man, has no idea who he is. He just gets these strange glimpses every once in a while, so he's trying to figure it all out. So if I read this book about Essos, across the lands across the narrow sea, maybe something will click. Maybe it'll all start to make sense. Then Marcus told Lord Redtree about maybe marrying Krim to Marianne, one of the youngest daughters, and take Marianne with him. Lord Redtree said that his oldest son was going to bring soldiers with him just in case House Rain or House Mormont brought soldiers with them. So they're setting things up to, if there's a possible confrontation, we at least have a lot of people here just in case. And they made a deal. Let's see here. And there was something that was said about where this coin had come from. That this coin had been slid under the door of Almer's room when my character was in there. And the idea that my character got was I was in that room in Almer's closet for a reason, because Almer had been crying out for death, and I had failed that task. So I'm also starting to wonder if Almsler is actually a wildling, and maybe he's another faceless man. Maybe there's two of us. So that's kind of curious. It's kind of up in the air. But yeah, that's the last of the recap so far. We should be playing in about 2 more weeks. So hopefully I'll have another recap then. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.